Yeah, but still, everybody's off the internet.
Hello, everyone. Hi,
Hello?
Sar. Hello, everyone.
Hi, good morning.
Good afternoon. Good morning. Good
Morning.
afternoon. Here,
Well, good afternoon, Eretz Yisrael.
I apologize for the technical difficulties. Okay, so
I think Zoom
What?
has added some more. Zoom has added some security, and I think that's why all the calls we've had today have been problematic because they've added this password requirement.
right.
So it's not anyone's fault. It's just another thing that they've added because it
Oh,
was
I
being
see.
hacked apparently.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for trying to make me feel better. Okay, so okay, so hello, everyone.
Hello.
Okay, so I guess we'll. Oh wait, I'm gonna record here. Okay, so if we, I'll start off by saying that if we get cut off at some point, because there's a 40-minute limit, then I'll just restart it. I'll just send everyone the email again to restart the meeting. Last week they had removed that limitation, but if we get cut off in the middle, I'll send an email and we'll jump right back in. Okay. So last week, okay, well, let me just make sure if there's anyone else who's joining us. Okay, everyone is admitted. Feel free to mute and unmute yourselves, okay? So last week we discussed a little bit about the fact that Pesach, the original Pesach, sorry, the Pesach as it was supposed to be celebrated, or as it was celebrated during the time of the Bet HaMikdash, looked very, very different than what we're accustomed to. And we discussed the fact that for the majority of Jewish history, Pesach was not necessarily celebrated in its truest form, or to its fullest glory. We discussed a little bit about Pesach during. Okay, hopefully we all remember, but today we're going to add another aspect to that. But today we're already going to jump. We're going to jump into one of the core texts of the Maggid. So I'll share the screen now. Those of you, I sent an email with the source sheet. Those of you who have it, feel free to look at it. But since I'm a big expert now, I'm going to share. I'm going to share the screen here so we can look at it together. Hopefully this works. Okay, you guys can see the the sheet?
Rabbi, hello? So you may want to, I don't know if you're able to come closer to your router. Hello, Rabbi Spitz?
Yeah.
You may want to come closer to your router because we are, you break, I don't know about everybody else, but for me, you're breaking up.
There seems to be then I'm about 5 feet away from my router, so I think it's
Okay.
I think it's just a weak internet connection. Okay. Okay, so I apologize if I'm a little choppy. Hopefully the connection will improve. Can you guys see the screen though?
Yes.
Okay. So during the Maggid, we say a lot of different things. Last week we discussed the Halach Ma'anya. We discussed the story of the 5 rabbis in Bnei Brak. We used both of those as part of the concept of seeing abnormal seders that were done throughout history, either the generations right after the destruction, during the time of the Bar Kokhba revolt. But today we're going to jump further into the Maggid. And I'm just going to go ahead and start. Okay, Rabban Gamliel would say, anyone who has not said these 3 things on Pesach has not fulfilled his obligation, and these are them: the Pesach sacrifice, matzah, and maror. Okay, so Rabban Gamliel is basically coming and saying that if a person finds himself unable to observe the entire the entire Pesach, or he's not able to say all of the different things that need to be said. He needs to recite these three things: Pesach, matzah, and mar. This is basically saying this is the kernel of the Leil Seder, or of the concepts of Leil Seder. Now, he doesn't just say these three words. He goes and he explains about each one. So what we're going to do now, we're going to read each one. And as we usually do, after each paragraph, we're going to stop for questions. Okay, the Pesach sacrifice that our ancestors were accustomed to eating, or that our ancestors ate when the temple existed. Why? Because the Holy One, blessed be He, passed upon the homes of our ancestors in Egypt. As it states, and you shall say, it is the Passover sacrifice to Hashem, for He passed upon the homes of the children of Israel in Egypt. When He smote the Egyptians in our homes, He saved. And the people bowed their head and prostrated. Any questions, comments? Now, again, it could be that it just it sounds very logical, makes a lot of sense, and therefore we can continue, but maybe not. Yes, Ron.
It doesn't make sense to me in that they didn't eat anything when they were in Egypt. They just put a mark on their doorpost, or did they eat the lamb as well?
Excellent. We will see that soon. So we're going to leave that open. You're saying it says here that it says here that why did the Passover, right? No, no, it says here, right, that they actually it doesn't say here that they ate it in Pesach. What does it say in Mitzrayim?
Yeah,
it says that they ate it during the time of the temple. Why did we eat it during the time of the temple? Okay, so you're saying why is that? Okay, so we're gonna leave that. You're saying did they eat it in Egypt or not? Good question. Okay.
Yeah, because the temple is later, so it's not. We're not doing it because we built a temple and they sacrificed at the temple. We're doing it because we got out of Egypt.
Right. Okay. Good. Other questions?
I just can ask something. The essence of Pesach, it's. I mean, yeah, he skipped from home to the homes of Jews, but still, the essence of it's that we went to freedom and we went to Eretz Israel.
Excellent.
So,
excellent. You're saying you're picking up on an excellent point. What does it say here? It says, right, that why do we eat the Pesach, or why, when we were able to eat the Pesach, right, meaning during the time of the temple, why did we eat the Pesach? So meaning the main sacrifice, the main korban. As we've discussed many in the past, the word korban does not mean sacrifice. The word korban, meaning sacrifice, means to give something up. Korban comes from the root of karov. Korban means closeness. Okay, so the main korban of the holiday is named after, based on what it says here, the fact that Hashem skipped over, right? Meaning that God did not kill the Jews. That's basically what he's saying. God went to all the houses of the Egyptians, killing all the firstborn. And he did not kill the firstborn from the Jewish firstborn. And that is going to be the name. We're going to name the entire holiday. We're going to name the Korban, which is the essence, the core observance of this holiday, based on the fact that Hashem did not come into the Jewish homes to kill the firstborn. That is the reason? That's a good enough, meaning, if anything, the skipping over, right, the sparing of the Jewish firstborn, that wasn't the main part of the holiday or of the salvation. If anything, even within that miracle, that was just a tool, that was just not a tool, that was just a means to an end of saving the Jews, of taking them out of Egypt. Why is that such a big deal? You say, so it's meaning, look at the language. For that he passed over the homes of the children of Israel in Egypt. When he smote the Egyptians in our homes, he saved. It should be named the salvation korban. not the passing over korban. If anything, if for whatever reason you're going to name the korban after this miracle, it should be called the salvation, not the, not that, oh, he didn't come into our houses to kill us. It should be about the result, that he spared us. We spared our firstborn. Right? So excellent question. Anything else? Any other questions? Any other points? Okay, so we'll continue. So we have two questions here. We have Ron's question, which is, what exactly, meaning did they eat the Pesach lamb also during Egypt? If not, then why is this a good enough reason to be the observance later on? And we have Galia's question, which is, why is it named after the fact that Hashem did not come into our houses to kill us? Why is that such a central thing, enough for the name of the korban to be that to be the name of the korban? Okay, everyone still with me? Thumbs up.
Yes.
People can hear me and see me. Okay. Okay. This matzah that we are eating, why? Because our ancestors' dough was not yet able to rise before the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, revealed himself to them and redeemed them. As it is stated, and they baked the dough which they brought out of Egypt into matzah cakes, since it did not rise, because they were expelled from Egypt and could not tarry, neither had they made for themselves provisions. Questions? If not, okay, meaning this text is supposed to make sense. So unless there's something that really jumps out at us, anyone got anything? Okay, let's
So
continue.
what did it didn't raise? So you just take the dough. You just take the dough, and when it's ready, you just bake it.
No, fine. It's saying just like when they left, they didn't have enough time there wasn't enough time for it to rise, and that's what they ate. So we will also eat dough that didn't rise. We're doing what they did. That seems to be the logic, right? They had to eat bread that didn't rise because they didn't have enough
I just
time
want to
to rise.
clarify.
So we'll do the same thing. Yes, Paul.
So did they not? I thought they didn't leave till the morning. They didn't leave at midnight. They left in the morning. So didn't they have all night to make the bread? Like, I mean, what was the rush?
Excellent. Okay, excellent, perfect.
I've always wondered about that question.
Okay, excellent. It's like, didn't they have the whole night? Why are they suddenly caught by surprise? Why didn't they have enough time? Okay, good. Next paragraph. The maror that we are eating, why? Because the Egyptians embittered the lives of our ancestors. Right, the word maror comes from the word mar. Mar is bitter, okay? So this maror that we are eating, why? Because the Egyptians embittered the lives of our ancestors in Egypt. As it is stated, and they made their lives bitter with hard service, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field, in all their service wherein they made them serve with rigor. Questions?
It looks a little bit childish. Come on, it's just
Why?
they couldn't find something better. I mean, you can write, you can explain. People know how to read. You can write the story in the way that people will see, that they will understand why to eat, why it has to be gastronomical.
I'm not trying to understand the question.
It just doesn't make sense. Why do we have to eat this and this? It's very primitive, looks to me.
You're saying that it seems a little, it's like, why do we need to, we can't understand the concept of, oh, they suffered without eating something that will make us suffer? You're saying, like, why do we have to reenact? Why do we have to eat a bit bitter herb? Like, why are we eating something so bitter? Why would he say this? Ew, this doesn't taste good. Why is something so bitter? Oh, because our forefathers had a bitter time. He's saying, why is this?
Listen, on Rosh Hashanah, we don't create something because it was created on this. It just, I don't know. It looks.
Although on Rosh Hashanah we have it even more, and perhaps even less connected with all the simanim that we eat, the apples, we eat this, we eat that to represent. I don't know, just eating seems experiential. We're supposed to relive as if it happened to us. So I don't really have a problem with it personally, but.
So, you're both right. Paul, you're right, because on Rosh Hashanah we do those things, but Galia is right because on Rosh Hashanah those things are custom. Over here, it's a core part of the night. It is an observance that we must follow. So I have an additional. Wait, does anyone? Since I can't see everyone, does anyone else have any questions on this?
Well, I mean, it's not more of an answer, isn't that a little bit what Paul was getting at? If we're commemorating what other people did, then I agree with Galia's point that it's, we're, just sort of a symbol. But if we're eating the maror now, we're experiencing the bitterness today, and the bitterness isn't just about what life was like for the Jews in Egypt, what life is like for Jews in Canada. So it's making it more time bound to today rather than remembering something that happened a long time ago.
Okay. So we'll get back to that. Okay. At some point I have a question on this one. Okay. Now that we've read all three, we have some questions. Anything strange about the order? Pesach, Matzah, Maror. Does that order make sense?
Probably Mara should be first.
What?
Mara should be first chronologically.
Correct.
Yes.
Maror should be first. If the reason for Maror is to, if the reason for Maror is to commemorate commemorate their suffering, if that's all it is, it should be first. It should be Maror. What should be the order? Should be, right? Theoretically, it should be Maror, Pesach, and Matzah. Right? Okay. Now
or Rabbi Spirit?
Yes.
Or Maror, Matzah, and Pesach, because Pesach is already secondary act of already being free. Like we're reenacting the act of being free and remembering something else. It's like a two-step removed.
Okay, so this brings us back to what Paul pointed out, which is something in the chronology of what's happening with the matzah is unclear. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're going to go back. Okay, and this is for those of you who are looking at the actual at the sheet that you might have in front of you. Okay, let me just do this. Okay, then it's the second page. What we're going to do now, we're going to look at the original Pesach. Last week we spoke about Pesach as it was celebrated in the temple, in the Bet HaMikdash. But that is not the original Pesach. We're going to look at the original Pesach, and we're going to discover. Again, this is like when you start looking at something, when you're experiencing something, and suddenly you're looking at it with the eyes of you discover amazing things. You'll understand soon what I'm talking about. We're going to look at the first Pesach ever done, which was what's called Pesach Mitzrayim, the Pesach that was observed in Egypt the night that they left. Actually, as Paul pointed out correctly, the night before they left. Okay? So this is taken from Shmot, Exodus chapter 12. We're not going to read the whole chapter. I brought the chapter here in bits and pieces. And we're going to read this text, and it's going to cause us to have even more questions on the 3 paragraphs, but it will also help us answer some of them. Okay. Hashem said to Moshe and Aaron in the land of Egypt, "Speak to the whole community of Israel and say that on the 10th of this month, each of them shall take a lamb to a family, a lamb to a household." That in itself is interesting, right? It was only, you had to be only with your immediate family. "You shall keep watch over it until the 14th day of this month, and all the assembled congregation of the Israelites shall slaughter it at twilight." So when is the sacrifice, when is the korban actually killed? It's killed on the twilight of the 14th day, okay? "They shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they are to eat it. They shall eat the flesh that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and bitter herbs." I'll read that verse again, verse 8. "They shall eat the flesh that same night. They shall eat it roasted over the fire with unleavened bread and with bitter herbs." So on the Rosh Chodesh, on the first day of the month, they're being told that in 14 days, they need to eat the Passover lamb together with what? With unleavened bread. They're told ahead of time to prepare matzah. They should prepare dough with water, not let it rise, and bake it immediately and eat matzah. Okay? Plenty of time. They had 2 weeks to prepare matzah. Okay? Everyone, thumbs up. Everyone could hear me and see me? I'm just not sure about the connection. Okay, good. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay. "This is how you shall eat it. Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it hurriedly. It is Passover offering to Hashem. For that night I will go through the land of Egypt and strike down every firstborn in the land of Egypt. And the blood on the houses where you are staying shall be a sign for you. When I see the blood, I will pass upon you, so that no plague will destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt." Any questions or observations on that verse? Wait, you know what? Wait. Let's continue a little bit. Verse 23. "For when Hashem goes through to smite the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the lintel and the 2 doorposts, and Hashem will pass upon the door and not let the destroyer enter and smite your home." Verse 28, "And the Israelites went and did so, just as Hashem commanded Moshe and Aaron, so they did." Verse 34, "So the people took," and then it says later when they're leaving, "So the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls wrapped in their cloaks upon their shoulders." And then in the morning, this is in the morning when they leave. Questions? There should be a lot of questions and observations here. Nothing?
Rabbi, verse 8 explains the order of how it is in the Haggadah, because it's Pesach, Matzah, and Maror.
Let's see. Pesach matzah. Yes, that's true. Yep, okay. But you guys see what's going on here. How many matzahs are there in this story?
It's as if they're celebrating.
Sorry, go ahead, Sivya.
I'm going to say it's as if they're celebrating Pesach before Pesach, like the Yetziat Mitzrayim happened and everything.
Sivya, it's not as if they're celebrating Pesach. They are celebrating Pesach. The first Pesach took place before they actually left. I'll say that again. The first celebration of the redemption from Egypt took place before they were redeemed from Egypt. That in itself, I think, is an amazing idea. Again, we read it all the time. We never notice it. They celebrated the redemption from Egypt before they were redeemed from Egypt. Or as the redemption is happening, but they actually are still in
That's
their,
a huge.
they are actually in their homes of slavery, in the land of slavery, celebrating the redemption. Yes, Ron, you wanted to say something?
Well, that's a huge leap of faith. I mean, it's saying to us right now, let's celebrate the coronavirus being over when we're in the midst of it, and and we don't know when it's going to end. But I find that I could imagine a lot of Israelites would have been skeptical. Like
Right.
they've seen plagues before, and they weren't freed. Why now do they believe it when the 9 other plagues before didn't work?
Right. So it's funny that you should say it's as if we were to celebrate now that the coronavirus is over, because the truth is that it's an amazing similarity. We'll get to it soon. Okay, we'll get to it soon. You're right. There definitely is a leap of faith, but they observed it. Okay, not just the putting the blood on the doorpost, which is supposed to save them from death, but also observing the korban and eating the maror and preparing the unleavened bread to eat it with the korban and the maror. All of it says they did as they were, right? It says verse 28, and the Israelites went and did so just as Hashem commanded Moshe and Aaron, so they did. So Sylvia, you're right. They absolutely.
I'm sorry, Rabbi. Rabbi.
Yeah.
Just to help me, just very quickly, because I lost track. I was running out of power for a second. When did this first Pesach Seder, when are we saying it took place? On that night before they left, after midnight? Or I'm just trying to get a definition of
about,
when we're saying this happened.
Yeah.
So after midnight.
No. It's happening during. They go and they bring the korban. They slaughter the lamb and start preparing it in the evening, right? As it says beforehand. When did they do that? Twilight. Okay, twilight. 7.
So is this before? Is this
6,
before the
7
death
o'clock
of the
in the
firstborn? The plague of the firstborn?
Absolutely. This is 5 hours, 5, 6 hours before the death of the firstborn. They are sitting, eating their lambs, observing the first Pesach, right? They can't even. It's funny, if they were to say the Magid, which of course they didn't because they didn't have a Magid yet, they would only have 9. They would only be able to do 9 times with their pinkies with the wine. There was no 10th plague yet. They're sitting there during the 10th plague, but they're celebrating it already. That in itself is a phenomenal concept.
Right.
But there's something else here, and it goes to what you were talking.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop the flow. I just wanted to get the time.
I'll interject that in about 6 minutes, we're going to get cut off because of the 40-minute limit. I'll start a new meeting and I'll send the email and everyone will just go back into it. Okay? Last week we got an automatic.
Rabbi, can I ask you a question? Rabbi,
yes.
Why does the God need sign on the door?
What?
Doesn't
Why?
know where to Why does the God need signs?
Well,
on the blood on the door.
I don't think God needs the sign, but I think the Jews needed the sign, needed an act of faith, an act of. You have to remember that the lambs were considered to be a deity in Egypt. To go and slaughter a lamb and to publicly out there where everyone could see it, where their enslavers could see it, is an act of defiance. It's an act of almost of like mutiny against the Egyptians. So if we're talking about the Jewish people doing an act which will bring about or participation in the redemption from slavery to freedom, this is a very, very powerful act that could not have been a simple thing for them. This brought it, this not just demonstrated to everyone else, but first and foremost was an act of defiance for them against their oppressors. So I want to go back to what Paul, you were asked about before about what's happening with the matzah. So it turns out there's two different matzahs. There's the matzah that they prepared beforehand with plenty of time. They had 2 weeks to go shopping for matzah, right? They had 2 weeks to prepare matzah because they were told 14 days ago that they, on the 14th day of Nisan, they need to eat unleavened bread. And they did it. It says so. We said they did as they were commanded. So they ate matzah.
But it wasn't an issue of did they have enough time to bake, because they were told it had to be matzah.
Yes.
It wasn't a matter of,
yes,
the chametz aspect was not because they didn't have time, it's because they were told matzah.
Exactly. They were told, prepare matzah, meaning don't let it rise. Prepare unleavened bread, right? And eat it on the 14th. And they did that. 10 hours later, they're told, quickly, it's time to go. Everyone get up and go, 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 go. And then they found themselves rushing to prepare food for the way, and they didn't have time for the dough to rise. But interestingly, the matzah that we're told that we eat is not commemorating the matzah that we ate in the first Seder. Rather, the matzah that we eat, if we go back to the source of Rabban Gamliel, right? The matzah that we are eating, why? Because our ancestors' dough was not yet able to rise before the King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, revealed Himself to them and redeemed them. This just makes it even stranger. Why is the matzah that we eat at our Seder based on the matzah that we were rushed to make, that we didn't know about, that we were rushed to make, and not the matzah that we knew about and ate sitting comfortably in our home in Egypt during the first Seder? And
Well, I mean, if we're commemorating
wait, just 1 second. Does everyone understand what's going on here? That there's two completely different matzahs in this story, as it turns out. And Rabban Gamliel, when he comes and says, why do we eat matzah, could have easily chosen the first one, meaning, to me, it would make more sense. Why do we eat matzah? Because our forefathers ate matzah in Egypt. Remember from the Halachmania? The Halachmania started this bread of affliction, or of, what was the other word we used last week? Deprivation or whatever that we eat because our fathers ate, because of the matzah that our fathers ate in Egypt. Rabban Gamliel says, no, that's not the reason we eat matzah at our Seder throughout history. We eat because of the unleavened bread that we were surprised about that we didn't have enough time to bake. Why? Why is that the one?
And Rabbi, we know that some community, they eat the first matzah, the soft matzah. Till today they eat it.
No, that has nothing to do with first or second.
It's the same.
It's the same matzah. It's just that Sephardim, meaning they are both, also soft matzah is matzah. It's just the method in which it's made. Both of those matzahs are matzah. Soft matzah, hard matzah. They both could have been eaten as the first one or the second one. But the question, we go back now to the first paragraph of Rabban Gamliel, or the second paragraph of Rabban Gamliel. Why is, and it's interesting, now you understand more that Rabban Gamliel, it's not just that it's not enough to just say Pesach Matzah Mar. Rabban Gamliel comes and says, listen, you also have to say why and make sure that you're saying this is not because of the matzah we ate in Egypt. This is for the matzah that we didn't eat, that we didn't have enough time to prepare, the one that we took with us on the way, that we didn't have time to prepare, not for the matzah that we did eat. Yes, Ron, you wanted to say something?
I had one other question. wouldn't the Israelites know that they were leaving? Like all these plagues were let my people go, and now they're given 14 days notice. They're doing something really defiant. Why is it a surprise if they're going through all of this? It's got to be with the belief that we're going to be let go. So they're not in. I wouldn't imagine. Like if I were in that situation, I would have thought, well, it looks pretty serious here. You know, God's telling us to be defiant here. Take a lamb. We're going to eat it. Keep our shoes on and our staff by our ready. We're leaving. Somebody would have been thinking, well, we better pack if this is happening.
Well,
it doesn't seem like such a shock, and all of a sudden God's saying, well, now leave, and we're surprised by that.
Well, the truth is that they were told to, if you look at verse